I think there's a hidden affair between my husband and my best friend. I, 31F, have a deep suspicion that there is something weird going on between my husband, 33M, and my best friend Maria, 30F. My husband feels I am just seeing things and is mad at me that I do not trust him enough. Please tell me if what is going on is just in my head, or if you also find the situation from last weekend suspicious. Maria and I have been best friends since college. She has always been very outgoing, while I am more of an introvert. Maria was always a bit promiscuous and loved drama. She had a lot of boyfriends and hookups in college. She is also very beautiful, and I always felt invisible when I was around her. I have weight issues. I always felt overshadowed by her. I was always very shy, and my husband was the first person I ever dated. Maria always teased me that I had only been with one guy in my life. As we have grown older, Maria is still to be in a long-term relationship. I feel that things have reversed now, and she keeps on telling me how lucky I am to have such an ambitious and reliable husband on my side. Around 6 months ago, my husband came to me and told me that he felt Maria was trying to flirt with him. He does not like Maria, but tolerates her for me. During one of the dinner parties, Maria was acting very flirty around my husband. She was just laughing extra loudly at all his jokes, complimenting his fitness, and touching him on the shoulders and arms. My husband told me that he felt uncomfortable with her behavior and asked me to talk to Maria. I was pissed off and I did talk to her. She got angry at me and said that she had known my husband for over a decade. He is like a brother to her. She felt my husband was trying to destroy our friendship because he did not like her. I felt like she was genuine, so I let it go. Maria soon joined our gym because she wanted to take yoga classes with me. However, she spent more time in the weights room where my husband is. Again, my husband made comments about how she is always half naked in the gym and asked him to spot her. Maria complained that my husband is being rude and unhelpful to her. I again took her side and told my husband to be helpful and nice to her, as she is my best friend. My husband said he would make more effort. I slowly started seeing them getting more and more friendly and working out together. I wanted to be cool with it, but I felt jealous. So now to what happened last weekend. Maria invited a bunch of her friends for a birthday party at her apartment. There were 7 guests there, including my husband and I. Maria kept on pushing tequila shots on all of us. Eventually, most of us got drunk. Maria was sitting next to my husband and was being very flirty with him, but I could see my husband not reciprocating, so I didn't care. Maria insisted we stay back at her place, and my husband and I slept in the guest bedroom. The other 3 guests, who were her coworkers, 1 guy and 2 girls, crashed on the sofas in the living room. I was drunk, and the last thing I remember was my husband bringing me to the guest room. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I was alone in bed. I could hear some moaning noises from outside. I quickly started looking for my phone in the dark. In that process, I dropped something from the nightstand on the floor. The noises stopped, and I heard a door open and close outside. I quickly got up to see where my husband was. When I reached the hallway, I saw my husband, just in his jeans with no shirt on. I asked him where he was, and he said he went to the restroom and asked if I was okay. I said yes, and he came and slept next to me. He was sweaty. I asked him where his shirt was, and he said that the heater was too high and he felt hot. His t-shirt was on a chair next to the bed. I lay down, but I was barely able to sleep after that. I got up early and went into Maria's room, and she was sleeping alone naked. I told her we were taking off, and she got up to see us off. I kept this all to myself, and when we reached home and my husband went to take a shower, I immediately checked his phone. I could not find any messages between him and Maria. I spent the whole day thinking about it and finally confronted my husband regarding it at night. He was pretty angry at me and told me that he hates Maria, and the only reason he tolerates her is because of me. I told him about the moaning noises, and he said he also heard the same when he went to the restroom but thought they were coming from the living room. He is still angry at me that I can accuse him of something so horrible, and has told me that if I am really that insecure, I should cut off my friendship with Maria. He also told me that he was never going to be in the same room as Maria ever again. I have no idea what to do. On one hand, I know my husband would never cheat on me, but it's just impossible to get the doubts out of my head. I keep on picturing my husband and Maria together in bed. Am I the a-hole to confront my husband and accuse him of cheating just because of what I saw and not having any real proof? How do I know what happened? If I confront Maria and accuse her, she is also going to be equally mad at me. I don't know her coworker friends well enough to trust what they say. I just feel stupid for trying to push for friendship between my husband and Maria. Please help. Update: they are texting via Facebook Messenger. Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, "Maria isn't your best friend. I say that sincerely as someone else who had best friends my whole life who were similar to Maria. I had a best friend like this who was prettier, funnier, more outgoing, better with men, everything in college. My boyfriend also didn't like her. She also tried to flirt with him. I was also worried about this. I was wrong. My boyfriend didn't cheat on me, and it's unlikely your husband cheated on you with her if he dislikes her so much. Much more likely, his story is correct that he was hot and took his shirt off. Drinking makes you feel hot on top of having a heater on and sleeping. Listen, as someone who has been through this, put some distance between yourself and Maria. You don't have to cut her out 100%, but maybe take her down to about 20%. And you may be thinking, but we've been through so much together. Yeah, I know. But what's even better than that is having friends that you aren't worried about wanting to steal your husband. Maria is an a-hole. Husband is not the a-hole. You are to be determined. Take this as a chance to apologize and move on. If you don't, you will be the a-hole. Thank you. Needless to say, I will increase our distance from Maria. I feel threatened by her, especially since I see her flirting with my husband and I am not okay. She does the same thing with most other men, and hence, I always chalked her behavior to this is how she is. I hope what you are saying is true about my husband. I feel the fact that I just can't get it out of my head, and it's been almost 5 days since the incident, and it makes me very anxious. I have apologized to my husband, and he says it's okay, but I can see he is still angry at me. Then user 2 commented and said, most of the comments I've read have gone in on Maria and discussed how she's not your friend. I agree, but I want to talk about the fact that you really need to be a better partner to your husband. He has expressed discomfort many times to you. You have flatly ignored his feelings and brushed them aside. You have even encouraged him to be close to someone who he doesn't even like. Stop it, OP. This is wrong. If someone was constantly flirting with and harassing you, how would you like it if your love and partner told you to get over it and play nice? Respect your husband's decisions to never go around Maria again. He said, I will never be in the same room as her again. Let that be the law of the land. It's not your place to try to force him to be around her, then get mad when you can tell the vibes are off, which he's explicitly told you over and over. Do better, OP. Your husband is never seeing her again, and I don't know why you would want to either. Some friends don't stay in your life forever. This is done. Move on from her, try to save your marriage. Update. 1 month later. I had posted about a month ago regarding suspecting my husband and my best friend Maria sleeping together while I was drunk and passed out in another room. A lot happened during the last month, and my mental health is at its lowest due to the betrayals. However, I think I now know what happened that night, and I am sorry for the long post. So, the day after my husband and I stayed at Maria's house for her birthday party, I was unable to shake the feeling that something happened between them. I am not proud, but I checked my husband's phone and all his messaging apps. I only found a brief chat between my husband and Maria on Facebook Messenger. Maria thanked my husband for coming to her birthday party and for such a great night. She sent him a photo of them hugging at the end of the night after I was asleep. My husband told Maria that I suspected that something happened between them and asked her to talk to me. Maria told him that she would talk to me. Maria called me the next day and told me that I was crazy and she would never think of doing such a thing to me. She sounded convincing, but I just couldn't shake the gut feeling that something happened. I told her why I suspected them, and she called me crazy and that my head was making up stuff that did not exist. I also mentioned that I saw her photo with my husband after I was asleep, and she could have kept her distance from him. I decided to distance myself from her as I no longer trusted her as a friend. We also changed the times we went to the gym so that we don't run into her. After a week or so, she messaged my husband on Facebook Messenger that they should tell the whole truth. My husband kept on asking her what she was talking about, but she kept on telling him that she feels guilty. My husband came to me and told me that Maria is sending messages to him and he is not sure what she is inferring. He kept on assuring me that nothing happened between them that night. I told him that I read their secret chats on Facebook Messenger. He gaslighted me, calling me insecure and that Maria was trying to play with my head. I finally decided to go to Maria's house and ask her what was going on. Maria initially kept on saying that she did not want to talk about it. However, finally, she broke down and told me what happened. She told me that during the night of the birthday party, my husband kept on staring at her. After they realized I was too drunk, he took me to the bathroom and again went back to the living room. At this point, he was sitting next to Maria and kept on touching her legs playfully. Maria was also very drunk and they decided to call it a night in 30 minutes. Maria said that my husband followed her to her bedroom and he started undressing her and they were intimate together. She told me that she was too drunk to consent to anything and it felt like SA to her. She kept quiet to keep peace, but it was bugging her from the inside. I asked her if she was sure, as she was too drunk that night, and she said that although she was drunk, she remembers all the details. I confronted my husband, but he still kept on telling me that what he was telling was the truth, and Maria never liked him and was playing me for a fool. He was so angry at me that he left the house and is currently living in a hotel nearby. He keeps on calling me and asking me to trust him, but I don't know how I can trust him. I never expected him to do such a thing. Maria has also been trying to talk to me and asking me to be there to support her. However, I do not know if I can look at either one of them. I am just going to try and cope with the situation and plan to go and live with my parents for a few days until my husband and I agree about our future. I know you all thought I was crazy in the previous post, but I knew in my gut something was wrong and never expected my life to suddenly come to this point. Now here are some relevant comments. One user said, "If you're looking for some honesty, have you noticed that your friend's version of the story just so happens to make your husband look like the bad guy and her completely innocent and a victim? After her messaging that they should come clean and that she feels bad? Which one is it? Does she feel bad about what she did, or was she just a victim? It smells of BS." The thing is, I do not know what to believe. On one hand, I trust my husband. However, my mind just won't let go of the image of them hooking up that night, and it haunts me like a nightmare. How would I even know who was telling the truth? I'm just going mad at this point, trying to think of every small detail that I might be missing. I have told my husband I need some time, and he understands. However, he also asks how can he prove something that never happened. Then user 2 commented and said, "You are conveniently believing Maria over your husband again. As others have mentioned, it's odd that she'd thank him for a great night, but then claim to you that she was SA'd. I don't know. Seems to me you'd rather believe the worst in your husband, truth be damned." Final update. I initially did not know who to believe and thought my friend was telling the truth. My husband was upset that I did not trust him and left the house to stay at a hotel. After posting the update, I read the comments until 4 a.m. and cried uncontrollably. I let my insecurities and craziness trust Maria when it was clear that my husband was telling the truth. Sorry for the long post. You helped me so much and might have saved my life. For the few people who DM'd me vile messages, I am mentally unstable, but that does not mean I need to end my life. I was not always insecure. When I met my husband a decade ago, we were both overweight. He never cared about my weight as long as I was happy. A year before we married, I had an idea where we would lose weight before our wedding date. He took his fitness seriously and lost 40 pounds that year, while I was not disciplined and did not lose any. Our wedding photo looks like Ryan Reynolds is marrying Princess Fiona from Shrek. This made me insecure about my weight. It did not help that my mom and Maria kept on telling me that I needed to lose weight or else he would leave me for someone more beautiful. The question in my mind was not if he would leave me, but when. He knows my struggles and has always been supportive and loving towards me. I went to meet him in the morning, and I have never seen him so broken. I started apologizing and crying, and he was trying to calm me down for almost an hour. I told him I trusted him completely and apologized that I did not see it sooner. He just looked stone-faced. He said he knew I would trust him eventually, but he is worried about Maria. He kept checking his social media because he was scared she might post about it. He said he could not imagine what his parents, friends, and coworkers would think if they saw the accusations. He told me that we need to talk to Maria to not spread such lies. I told him in detail what Maria told me, and he told me what happened that night. He said that I fell asleep on his lap around 1:30 a.m. He woke me up and took me to the bathroom. He came out to say goodbye to everyone, but the party was already dying. My husband was not drunk. He generally never drinks more than 1 to 2 drinks ever, but Maria and her friends were very drunk. Maria wanted to take some final pictures and went to everyone and made silly poses. That was the photo she sent to my husband. She asked my husband if he could come with her to the bathroom to get some blankets and pillows for others. My husband told her he needed to check on me, and the other male coworker volunteered to go with her and get stuff. My husband then came to the room and slept. He woke up 2 hours later and went to the restroom. He confirmed that he heard the moaning noises, but they had stopped when he came out of the restroom. We decided to talk to Maria, and I invited her to our house on Saturday evening. She was shocked to see my husband with me in the house. My husband told her that she knew what she was saying was wrong, and he still had the messages where she thanked him the next day. Maria got defensive and started telling me that she blacked out that night, but later slowly started to put together what happened that night since she was naked when she woke up. She asked me why she would sleep naked without locking the room door when her coworkers were in the next room. She said that she remembers my husband coming to her room and sleeping with her while she was extremely drunk. My husband told Maria that none of that happened, and she kept on insisting that she clearly remembered him him naked and having sex with her. Then my husband asked her, if it was true, then tell me how big I was. She was taken aback and shouted to him, saying just because it was huge does not mean I enjoyed the sex, and that she was extremely drunk. I asked Maria if she was sure, and she said she would never forget it. The thing is, my husband is noticeably smaller than average in that area. I'm not complaining, as he always gets the job done, but I knew Maria was full of it. A screaming match began between Maria and myself, and I told her she was full of it and to get out of my house. I told her that if she accused my husband, I would stand by him and tell everyone I was in the next room, and none of this happened. Maria was crying at this moment and then told me to enjoy my life with my abuser. I hugged my husband, but he still looked void of any emotions. He told me not to freak out, but he had planned to visit his parents' house to reset his head before I talked to him. I wanted to be with him, but instead he wanted to be alone for a week and will be back on Saturday. He also called my mom to come to our house, so I am not alone. We told her what happened, and she was very angry at me. I have been talking to him all week on phone, and he plans to return tomorrow. I feel lucky and undeserving of such a good husband and cannot believe I was so close to losing him. I have not heard from Maria, but at this point, our friendship is over. Again, thanks to everyone who sent well-meaning messages to me all throughout the week. I truly appreciate it. I have signed up for therapy this week and hopefully will be able to be a better wife to my husband forever. So we've gotten a couple of stories like this where OPs like home, and it's usually with women, or OPs like homegirls with this lady that she's known for a really long time, and then OP realizes, oh wait, wow, she's not a good friend. She's barely a friend. She's not worth it. And this seems to be one of those cases, except it's much worse because she was falsely accusing the husband of SA. And she was like, yeah, you're really big down there. And then the husband was like, well, actually. Also, as for OP, she's got some stuff to work out. A lot of the comments really painted some good perspective and was like, hey, you're not really like believing in your husband much. You're allowing or wanting to put your husband in a situation where he has to consistently be with someone he doesn't like because you want it to happen. And, you know, that's not really considerate. And I'm assuming OP is now realizing it. She says she's going to therapy, so that's good. And hopefully the marriage works and happily ever after and retirement, and then you die. But with love. You die with love. Anyway, what do you guys think? Next story. Story number 2. Am I the a-hole for ruining my mom's engagement party after she abandoned me when I was 11? I, 17M, have a strained relationship with my mom, 35F, after an accident that happened about 6 years ago. My mom was a super strict and helicopter-type parent, so we fought a lot over my grades and the trouble I got into at school. She had essentially abandoned me, signing over custody to my dad after I told her something along the lines of, I hate you and I wish I lived with dad. The typical things an angsty preteen says to their parent, but that fight seemed to have broke her, and she cried before dropping me off at my dad's apartment. I thought it wouldn't be a big deal and I would just see her the next day after she proved her point, but she left me there. After that, things got essentially worse for me. My grades dropped and I kept getting into trouble at school, almost to the point where I was kicked out. My dad never had job security, so money was tight. His girlfriend also wasn't fond of me, saying I was dumped on them. I wanted to go back to live with my mom. I thought to apologize, but my mom had essentially moved on with her life. She went back to college to get her degree and was always studying, and later on was focused on her new work. On the weekends, I would go to see her, but things were tense between us. She tried so hard to be the fun parent, eating takeout and leaving me to do what I wanted, but it was so unlike her, and we became even more estranged. 3 years ago, she started dating Paul, 39M, a widower with 2 daughters, 9F and 13F. She started treating his daughters like they were her own, and they started calling her mommy, which irritated me. Eventually, they moved into my mom's house and changed my childhood bedroom into one of the daughters' rooms. I was livid when I found out, saying some mean things about the girls and refused to go back there for my mom's weekends, but she was confused on why I was acting this way. Because of this fight, she thought I wouldn't be attending the engagement party when she announced her and Paul would be getting married. Besides, she didn't want to ruin the perfect picture of her new family, so I made it a point to go for the party and called her out on her behavior. I wanted to confront her and tell her she wouldn't have to bother with me after I go off to college, but I may have taken it a tad too far. Everyone kept talking about how Paul's daughters were like her children and how it would be when she had more kids, and it snapped something in me. I called her a horrible parent and told her she was trying to replace me with the little brats after she abandoned me, along with some other insults I don't don't really remember. Paul kicked me and my dad out, saying I was an a-hole for making his fiance and girls cry and ruining the engagement party. He said I won't be allowed to the wedding unless I called and apologized. I may have taken it a bit too far, but my dad agrees she had it coming after abandoning a young child at an age when I needed my mother. So, am I the a-hole, and should I apologize? Now, here are some relevant comments. One user asked, "Can you give examples of her helicopter parenting style?" It was mostly to do with homework. She would check my work every day for notes from my teachers, whether or not it was neat and correct. She also wrote to my teachers to have my place in class changed so I was closer to the front and would pay attention. I wasn't allowed to use the internet unless it was for school, and she made sure to check for that. She also was pretty strict about my sleep schedule and what I ate. I wasn't able to go for any sleepovers either until I started living with my dad. Then user 2 commented and said, "This is above the pay grade of this subreddit. You are a child and she is an adult and your mother. She needs to do the emotional work of creating the conditions for your reconciliation. If she can't, you need to focus on your growth and figuring out how to establish yourself in life. It doesn't sound like she's going to be coming through on that, so you are on your own. That is of far bigger significance than whether you are the a-hole or not. Take care of yourself, not the a-hole." Then user 3 commented and said, "Someone already said this, but this is above this sub's pay grade. It is very obvious that you have some deep emotional issues towards your mom and you feel abandoned. Ultimately, she is the parent and she has to take the majority of the responsibility for the way your relationship has turned out. But quite frankly, I think you need to really take a look at the role you played in this as well. You acknowledged that you hurt her feelings when you told her you hated her. You just assumed you would see her later. Did you apologize to her? You said she tried to do fun things with you on the weekends, but you also said you didn't like that either. At no point did you actually say you apologized to her at all. Instead, it seems like your behavior escalated and you continued to lash out. Your mom could have possibly tried harder, but it seems like she's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. You made your feelings of hurt and resentment and abandonment very clear in this post. At what point do you acknowledge that your mom is also a person with feelings and that you may have continuously, without apology, hurt her too? Not sure if I want to call you an a-hole, but I don't want to call your mom one either." And finally, user 4 commented and said, "Hi, child of divorced parents here. From the bottom of my heart, you are the a-hole. Trying to help your child and being strict with them after they get bad grades and get in trouble at school is normal. You didn't like the consequences of your actions, so you lashed out, and you got exactly what you wanted. She was too strict and helicoptering? You hated it. She was the chill weekend parent? You hated it. Didn't want to live with her? Got what you wanted. Deal with your actions and stop blaming her for them, and please either apologize and change your tune or leave that woman and her family alone." Update. Same day, 5 hours later. There is a lot going on here, and I have not had the time to look through everything, so I still haven't decided on what to do. But to answer some questions, helicopter parenting. I mentioned some of the things my mom did, but it didn't give the entire picture. Some people say it was just usual parenting, but it felt so constricting, and it was very different from when I was at my dad's. I also wasn't the smartest kid out, and sometimes it felt like I was being punished for that. Next, did we have any arguments before? My mom and I were prone to screaming matches if I didn't immediately do what she said. No, I never hit her, it was mostly shouting. Other people asked, did I apologize? No, I didn't. I know that would be my single biggest regret. I don't know if that warrants the rest of what happened or if it would have changed anything. Other people asked, what was the trouble at school? It mostly had to do with phasing out or losing my patience. I got into a couple of fights with other kids who teased me on my home situation, but it was nothing serious. As mentioned, I am not an academic, so there was always trouble with that. And what about therapy? I spoke to someone when I was younger, and my parents had me see the school counselor 2 years ago, but I find it hard to talk to other people. I'm also on meds, which were supposed to help with my moods. What about my mom and dad situation? My parents separated when I was a baby. My dad is 40 and used to work in construction until he got injured and can no longer pay child support. When my mom transferred custody, she began to pay support. I am full-time with my dad and my mom on the weekends when I feel like going. On winter break, my mom takes me out of state to my grandma's where we stay with the rest of the family. I can do the math. I know how old my mom was when she had me and that I basically ruined her life, so there's no need to point that out. There is an overwhelming amount of attention on this post that is giving me mixed messages. I regret posting this because of how confused it has gotten me about my parents and childhood. But I do appreciate the support and advice, especially from other people who had similar issues. I will try and do another update when I figure out what to do. Update number 2. 11 days later, final update. So, a lot has happened. I never expected this post to get this much attention with so many mixed reactions, and honestly, it confused me to say the least. While this forum was blowing up, I had to go to school like normal. It's been a few weeks since the engagement party, and a kid who was there had been relentlessly mocking me for what happened. I thought he would eventually let it go, but yesterday when he brought it up again, I lost my cool and got into a physical fight with him. He was given detention, but I was suspended. The school called my mom and got Paul instead. Since she was in a meeting, he came and got me. Things were awkward in the car ride, and we didn't say a word to each other until he asked me if I was going to apologize to my mom. I told him I didn't even want to go to his stupid wedding. Paul was confused when I said this and told me that my mom had gotten mad at him for saying I couldn't attend, and that she knew I wouldn't apologize if they told me to because I was stubborn. He said that she called my dad weeks ago and said I could go because she really wanted me to be there, and my dad said he would talk to me. I don't know why, but when I heard this, I burst out into tears, embarrassingly enough. I don't know if it was the suspension or reading all the comments, but I really couldn't hold it in anymore. It took me way too long to stop, and Paul was really freaked out, so he parked somewhere and tried to calm me down. I ended up telling him everything about what happened when I was a kid, and how I felt about my mom. I also confessed that I wish she would yell at me or scold me for my outbursts because it felt like she didn't care anymore and just hated me for what I said. It's effed up, I know. I thought if I ever repeated what I wrote on this post to another person, they would think I was human garbage. But he just listened to me and let me get everything off my chest. I guess that's what being a girl dad is. Surprisingly, he didn't blame me. In fact, it was the opposite. He said he understood me. He works with her, so he knew that my mom was a tough woman, and he had never seen her cry before until that day and was unsure about how to approach her after. So he didn't blame me for not knowing how to talk to her after what happened when I was a child. He didn't give me details, but he assured me that my mom did not hate me, and the situation is more complicated than what I know. Paul said I shouldn't bear all the blame, and if I was comfortable, maybe myself and my mom could go speak to the therapist he saw after his wife had passed. He was mad at my dad though. Apparently, this was not the first time my dad said he would talk to me about something and just didn't. Paul suspected my dad wanted me to have another outburst at the wedding because he was still somewhat resentful towards my mother. I don't know how to take this because while my dad didn't really like my mom, I don't think he would really actually do something like that. Either way, I think I owe it to myself and my mom to at least try and reconcile and deal with my trauma so I could let go of my anger towards her. I at least apologized to Paul's girls. My dad wasn't home, so I spent the rest of the day at my mom's. The 9-year-old forgave me almost instantly, like she didn't actually care and instead asked me about dinosaurs for the rest of the evening. The 13-year-old is still pretty mad, but mostly because Paul had her give up her new room and share with her sister. I tried to say I was okay if she took back the room. I wasn't really, but it seemed right to do so after what I did. But Paul said that they would make a plan when they remodeled. I knew I needed to apologize to my mom as well, but that seemed just so much harder. I know you guys recommended writing a letter, but I don't really have enough time, nor did I know what I was gonna say yet. There are these flower bushes in our garden though, and I have a vivid memory of when I was a kid. My mom getting mad when I destroyed one only to forgive me when I had given her the flowers from them. It's a bit pathetic for her grown child to give her weeds because he couldn't get a word out, but I think the gesture meant the same for her like it did for me. She finally asked me if I was living better at my dad's, and honestly, I don't know. I know you guys don't think the best of him. Things did seem to be worse when I stayed with him, but he was a decent dad, and I didn't want to just lose him like I did my mom. She said she would speak to him after our meeting with the school on Monday for the family therapy, and if I was open to the idea of staying with her some nights during the week too. As of now, Paul had spoken to her, and she already made the appointment for us to see the therapist next week. She also spoke to me about anger management classes too, and said she would go with me if that's what I wanted. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with school, if the therapy would work for us, and if I would ever be able to fully let go of my built-up resentment. But I feel like everything's gonna be okay. Thank you for all the comments, even the horrible ones. It just got me thinking a bit. Also, I will never be posting on Reddit again, but I do appreciate having the space to find the words to say what I needed to, and everyone who shared their deep and some dark stories that made them relate to my relationship. I hope things turn out okay for you as well. A child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. I kind of got some vibes from that old proverb in this story. It seemed like, the kid didn't feel like his mom was paying attention to him, so he lashed out, and that's very common behavior. Naruto did that, and so did his son, but we don't talk about that show. But as for the story, I kind of do agree with some of those comments about this being a little bit above the sub's pay grade just because he's a kid. She's a parent. And yeah, OP did some bad things, but he had a rough upbringing. If he was in his 20s or 30s or something like that or older and had these similar situations, then yeah. But when you're young, you're still learning how the world works. He's a minor. His brain isn't fully developed. And again, though, the mom has work to do as well. And Paul is an awesome guy, and they're going to therapy. I'm not necessarily going to blame anyone here. Like, yeah, people did some wrong things, but I think they're realizing that and acknowledging that and trying to work through that. And I think that's ultimately the best thing you can hope for here. That is what you want here. But anyway, we're at the end of the video, and I'm curious what you guys think about this story. And also, I have not had a Pop-Tart in a really long time. Anyway, I'm going to go find one of those. But thank you so much for watching the video, and have a good day. Bye-bye!